Thank you for that introduction, Prem. You made me feel ancient. But I'm not all that ancient. So, first of all, let me add my welcome to these young adults who are interested in space. Start with a good story, which didn't have a very good outcome. This is about a team of young professionals who wanted to launch a vehicle, a rover, on the lunar surface. Google announced a contest that should be only privately supported with no government support, for groups of young people to launch a lunar vehicle, land it on the surface of the moon, have a rover that comes out of that landed vehicle, ambulates on the surface of the moon for about 500 meters, taking high definition pictures, and transmit it to Earth. So whichever country wins that contest will get multi-million dollars by way of prize money. There's something like 22 countries participated. They were down selected. Finally, there were only 4 teams that were allowed to go into the final to get into that mission. There were 2 teams from the US, one team from the US, 1 from Japan, 1 from Israel, and 1 from India. The Indian team was called Team Indus, and they started raising money from corporates, individuals, etc. They signed up with ISRO for the launch. So everything was going very well. Midway through the exercise, the Japanese team came and said that, I don't think we'll be able to launch a lunar mission like the way you have planned. Since we have been selected, we would like to still participate in that contest. So would you, India, be willing to take our vehicle, our lunar rover, on your lunar module, along with your rover, land it on the surface of the moon, and then ambulate both? You will be the first to do, following which we will do. So the Indian team, Team Indus, also signed up. Everything was going well. The date is still not over. They can continue. They've signed up with ISRO for the launch vehicle. One of the PSLV launch rockets will take it out. But they ran into funding issues. They could not get enough funds. It's not a large amount, about $20 million, $20 to $25 million. So they're going through a process of raising money. And one of the interesting things about the Indian mission was the Indian lunar module was to carry 8 experiments from students in school under the age of 16. So specially made preparations for school students to participate in this. So they were given some advice. There were coaches from ISRO and other places who helped them define these type of experiments that can be carried out on the lunar surface. And because weight is so important, all of them came up with nice experiments, all these 8 teams, but everything was heavy. So they're saying each one of you will have to reduce the size of the experiment that you have, which weighs something like 1 kilogram to 5 kilograms, to bring it under 120 grams. That's all we will allow you to carry on the lunar module. Okay. And that is the mission that the children are working on. Tremendous amount of effort. The point of the learning for me from that mission, from the Team Indus mission, whether it happens or not, is the amount of enthusiasm it generated among the school students, the amount of innovation that happened, and the way the school children thought about this big challenge and participated in that. And major players who contributed, this included major corporates, were so excited about that facility. And those of you who are interested, you can still go and see that facility. It is in Bangalore. It's on the way to the airport from the city. That place is still there. I can show some pictures. I took some pictures of myself with the rover, with the lunar module, with the control center that they'd established, etc. Very, very exciting. It's something that really those people who are fascinated by space mission will enjoy that. Congratulations to OptiSol for moving into this new facility. I wish you all the best successes that all of you can have. This is a great time for all of us here in India, not just in India, for everyone anywhere in the world to be in the technology space. Technology is defining every single industry. It's redefining, reinventing, as Prem was saying, every industry. There isn't going to be any technology or any industry that's going to be untouched by technology. The corporates are now classified, one classification. There are several things that are reported. This may be of interest to you. There are 3 classes of companies that you can think about globally. First class of company is company that has only information as their product. Information, data is what they sell. We're all familiar with that. Google, just an information company. Facebook, information. Those type of companies. So product is information. There is a second set of companies that are converting physical products, or what can be termed as analog products, into digital products. Smaller set but expanding. A good way to think about it is books. Book is a physical thing, but books are now available in digital format. Music is available in physical format, in CDs and tapes, etc. Now that's increasingly becoming available in digital format, etc. The first set of companies are Amazon is in that space, Google is in that space, Facebook is in that space. Second group of companies, Netflix can be added there, Apple. Many of these companies are trying to see whatever is in the analog world, can it be converted into the digital world. The latest company is someone who is offering holiday packages. These are not physical holiday packages, but this is augmented reality packages, where if you think that you want to go to New York and spend 2 days there, you don't have to physically travel there, you can get that experience sitting here. So there are other forms of services that are analog are becoming increasingly digital. And the last set of companies are the companies that continue to be physical. They will remain physical. Automobile manufacturers, aircraft manufacturers, machinery manufacturers. These are machinery that is required. But they're increasingly becoming digital too. Look at the amount of software that goes into a new car, whether it's an automotive car, regular internal combustion engine car, or a Tesla type of an electric vehicle. Lots of software, lots of devices, and you know about self-driving cars. Exactly the same thing with a Rolls-Royce or a Ford or a Rolls-Royce engine that goes into vehicles or trains. More and more of IoT devices, more and more of software, more and more of artificial intelligence is getting into it. Genetics is one area that people are saying belongs to the second category. Increasingly, medicine is going to be less about hardware and analog devices, more about software and algorithms. Genetics, gene therapy are the ones that are going to create healthcare for the future. So that's the transformation that is happening all over the world. In fact, there are people, interesting, again to come back to Prem's point about ancient, there is a Dr. K.M. Cherian. Some of you will be very, very familiar here in Chennai. He has performed more than 45,000 cardiac surgeries. He was the first one to do a cardiac surgery in India. He is the first one to do a heart transplant in India. He is 85 years plus. The project that he is working on is called MagGenome project. Medical genomics is known, MedGenome is known. So he believes, to put it in simple words, to take some magnetized ions in the body, fuse it with proteins, and using a magnet, drag that magnetized protein to any corner of the human body where even blood vessels cannot reach. So So if there is a cure that is available, if there is medicine that has to be carried to some part, it can be carried internally through magnetic genomics. So such is the extent of technology implications for all industries that we are in. What it means to all of us is fantastic opportunity, tremendous opportunities for growth. No company can survive without technology, software. So much so, GE, General Electric, one of the largest companies in the world, it's going through tremendous amount of trouble now. Its stock value has decreased. They're trying to sell divisions, etc. Jack Welch, one of the greatest CEOs, mentioned about 20 years back as an advice to all the industry. He said that the rate of change outside the company exceeds the rate of change inside. That means the end of the company is very near. Unless companies change and adopt and react rapidly to evolving external situations, unless you reinvent, you'll be gone. Now that's so relevant to GE itself today. GE as a company has not been fast enough to reinvent itself in the last 10 years, because of which it is going through that trouble. And Jack Welch's advice was, every 5 years, every company, every enterprise has to reinvent itself, and every 5 years, every individual has to reinvent himself or herself. You need to learn new tricks, new knowledge, and be a different person in terms of capability than you were before. Except that in today's context, it's not going to be 5 years, it's going to be much shorter. But there are plenty of facilities that are available for learning. By learning and by providing an empowered environment, all of us are creative people. All of you are very creative people. You can come up with solutions. You can come up with ideas. You can come up with innovation that will make a difference to the world. It's that environment that has to be created. So for every company, that environment is important. That culture is important. People talk about strategy. Again, it is said, Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for lunch. Culture is far more important than strategy. You have a fantastic strategy, but if you don't have the internal culture, a culture of learning, a culture of excellence, whatever you produce, whatever you do, that must be the best. I worked 7 hours and produced this. This is good enough. No, it's not good enough. Spend another 3 hours, maybe another 7 hours to perfect it so that no one finds fault. Otherwise, what's the difference between us and an ordinary person on the road? The pursuit of excellence is a culture that we have to adopt. Empowerment is a culture. Innovation, trying out new things. These are the things that make a lot of difference to firms rather than the strategy. And of course, structure follows strategy. How do you structure the business? How do you structure teams, etc.? Yes, it is important, but the strategy has to be clearer before the structure is in place. Many times, what organizations do is to decide based on the availability of people. Oh, these are the leaders that are available. This is the way I'll structure my business. But the structure may not support the strategy that the company is following. If OptiSol's strategy is to help startups, help new companies, be creative, etc., that requires an entirely different structure, an agile structure, than if you want to support large enterprise customers in a deep and multi-year engagement manner, which requires a structure. So we'll have to define that strategy. I'm sure the leadership team is doing it, followed by the structure. And the last point that I want to make is about leadership. Every successful company anywhere in the world has a set of leaders who have shown the way. Leaders, by their behavior, exhibit what the culture is. After all, people in the company, you don't have to be, it's very difficult to train in a culture. You cannot put people in the classroom and say this is the culture environment. Very difficult. You can talk about the strategy, the vision, the successes that we have had. But all of us are intelligent people. We observe our leaders, our superiors, our managers, our CEOs, our customers. and we learn from that. If they exhibit the right behavior, then all of us learn the right behavior. If they tolerate good behavior and don't tolerate bad behavior, the message is very clear to the entire team, all 200 plus people in the company. Say, this is the right behavior. If I do this, this will not be tolerated. So the leaders have a great responsibility in terms of setting the behavior, showing the behavior, so that there is a culture that evolves and it can all be successful. You have come a long way. 200 people, companies, you have crossed the first inflection point. Typically, about 50 people, then 200 people, about 500 people, then about 2,000 people, and then the road is easy. Each inflection point is almost like an S-curve. You just have to keep shifting the chasm and get on to the next S-curve. So each such point will be challenging for all of you, but that's where the excitement is. I'm really happy for all of you that you are in this journey. You are so young. You have a world full of opportunities ahead of you. Make the best of it. Wish you all the very best, and thank you very much.